Hello guys, welcome to Pigman Rat. My name is Juan and today I found this. This is a super old Ork Truck that I painted when I was like 15 years old, and I want to try to convert this into a modern truck, and for that I've bought another modern truck. So we're gonna try to kitbash these two kits into two different trucks and make it look as cool as possible. Let's get into it. Aside from the super old truck, I also found these two wheels, which are probably as old as the truck itself. I honestly don't even know where they came from. I wanted to use them so each truck would have 3 wheels per side, but as soon as I tried to place them, I realized they looked way too small. So I decided to stick with 4 wheels per truck. And in case you're wondering, yes, this sand texture is basically impossible to remove, so I just decided to leave it and paint over it. To get started, I built some sections of the modern kit separately, just to understand what pieces I had available. And this kit has basically 0 spare parts, which makes my life significantly harder. But it does have a ton of small details, so my idea is to split those details between both trucks and then use scratch building materials to fill in whatever I'm missing. I'm also trying to mix old and new pieces on both vehicles, because the old kit really lacks detail compared to the modern one. I cut some small triangles from plastic card and add spikes to the old truck, just to make it feel a bit more orky. But the main problem here is the size. The old truck is almost half the size of the new one, so I had to find a way to fill all the empty space and give it more volume. I ended up using sections of sprue as structural supports, and surprisingly they worked really well. I also added some plastic card to close gaps, and with that the basic shape of the truck was done. For the engine, since I only had one, I decided to fake it. I built a box at the front as if the engine was hidden inside and covered with metal plates. I used milliput to create a base structure, then added plastic car panels on top. I even cut this skull from the new kit to decorate the front. The engine might look a bit small and slightly silly, but honestly I think it works. Next problem, height. The old truck sits extremely low, and that makes it look much worse next to the modern one. So I glued some pieces of sprue underneath the chassis to lift it up, and then attached the wheels to those supports. This whole kitbash uses a lot of scratch built parts, and I'm not being super precious about the details. But they're orcs. If any faction can justify messy engineering, it's them. Once the main structure were finished, I distribute the remaining detailed parts between both trucks, trying to make them equally interesting. For the wrecking ball, I only had one, and since it's an actual weapon on the datasheet, I felt like I needed a second one, so I built it from scratch. I used wire for the chain, aluminium foil covered in green stuff for the ball, and added small pieces of green stuff on top to give it that rough welded look. After adding the final plates and details, both trucks were ready for paint. And after priming them black, this is what they look like. They're not identical to the original modern kit, but I'd say they're pretty convincing. My only concern is that they look slightly fragile for gaming, so I'm expecting a bit of real battle damage at some point. But honestly, that's fine. For the paint scheme, I wanted strong hazard yellow stripes on some of the armor plates, I started by sketching the lines with a pencil, which in theory should help, but in practice I barely followed them. Painting yellow over black was painful. It took way more layers than I expected to get decent coverage, especially on the panels that I painted up after the yellow stripes. I usually start my orks with a white zenithal prime, but this time I skip it, because I knew most of the tracks would be black and metallic. Now, after what felt like 100 coats of yellow, I'm not sure that was the best decision. Still, once the brighter yellow highlights went on top, the contrast with the black started to look really strong. I have to admit that even if they are a pain in the ass to paint, black and yellow look amazing together. For the white details, I used grimy grey instead of pure white. It covers much better and looks more realistic. Then I applied a brown wash over everything, pushing it into the recesses to create a deeper shadow. For the orc skin, I used the same color recipe as the rest of my army. If you are curious about the full skin, I've linked my previous orc videos in the description. The rest of the clothing and details are less important visually, so I kept them simple and efficient. At this point, everything left was either black or metallic, and both needed rust. So I grabbed my dry pigments and started placing them into every crevice where rust would naturally accumulate. I recently bought this pigment binder, which I just realized has a satin finish, so I probably hit the models with a matte varnish later to kill that shine. After the rust, I added some dusty pigments to the wheels and lower areas, just to make them feel grounded. Since trucks don't have bases, this is the best way to integrate them into the battlefield. To add some chipping to the yellow armor, I used a sponge with black paint along the edges, making it look like the paint has been scratched off during battle. With the pigments done and sealed with a couple of coats of matte varnish, the only thing left was metallics, and honestly I didn't want to overcomplicate it, so I mostly used a sponge to apply metallic paint randomly across the edges and surfaces, creating texture and variation. So from one old truck and a new kit, we now have two fully painted playable vehicles. Was it worth it just to save 40 euros? Probably not, it was much harder than I expected. But I had a lot of fun and I'm pretty proud of them right now. The funny thing is, I now have more space in vehicles than actual models to put on them. So I guess I'll have to paint a couple of boys or Gretchens to fill these trucks. If you want to see how this whole Ork project started, check out this video here where I painted the Commandos box, my first fully finished Ork unit. And if you like this kind of painting content, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.